Good evening and welcome to what's happening in John's shed. Right, as promised, I've got the two carburetors from the Velocette the Velocette Valiant that I've been putting back together, and I just wanted to give these a quick check over before before I fit them, just to make sure everything's in good fettle. So what I'll do, I'll unscrew the top off this one and get that out of the way. On the periphery of these carburetors, as you can see there, that's a 363/5. Now for a pair, I understand that this one should be a 4, which that looks like a misstamped 4, but it's a 363/4. So that is actually a pair of Valiant carbs. Good news is, to start with, this thread looks intact around the top. They can get a bit worn sometimes if they've had a lot of maintenance done on them. I'll put that out of the way for now. The slides are a little bit worn. There's no step in them, a little bit, as you would expect, worn because it's aluminium against aluminium. These are anodised, I think, from new to make them a bit of a more wear resistant face, and the needles doesn't look bent anyway. So that one's the same, a little bit of wear as you'd expect. That needle looks as if it's a bit on the, yeah, it's not quite straight, but on the scunt, I think, so I'll check that out later. These have got twin cables up to this little splitter here, which is nice chrome plated brass splitter, and then it runs up to the good old standard Miller throttle. So twist of the throttle and yeah, movement there. They were all set up quite well. I did give them a quick check over when I took them out the box of bits I've got. So let's just put them out of the way. Here we have the little carburetor. Yeah, there's nothing special about them. I've known these flanges here to crack in the base of them, and I know on the Valiant, I'm not sure on other bikes, but in the bottom of there, in that root corner, there's a rubber seal which, when you push the carburetor onto its little manifold, that seal should push up to the end of the manifold to give it an extra seal, because I do believe these engines are quite susceptible to poor running if you're not careful. They need to be really well set up, and air leaks are not going to help things. Good old-fashioned choke. I think a good flood on the carburetor is more than enough to keep it happy for cold starting. I think if you need a choke on it, then it must be bloody cold. So let's have a quick leg here. And the one thing I forgot to get ready, because I've just had a big belly full of pancakes and I've not been thinking straight. If we just take this bottom, this cover off, there's a seal on there that gets missed off sometimes. Right, that's the tick over screw there. Let's get that out just to make sure the end's still intact, because they do get, strangely, they get snapped off, I've known, and the threads can sometimes be a bit buggered up. But this one is long enough to come out the top, really. Yeah, that's intact. Look, that little button there, that's what goes underneath the slide to lift it up. Threads look intact in there. And then we've got the mixture screw. Well, before we undo that, let's just see how many turns out it is. So that's half, 1, 1.5, 2. So that's 2 turns out. So that's half, 1, 1.5, 2. I counted it like that for Ben's benefit, really, because I made a mistake last time. Right, so that's 2 turns out, which is a good starting point for setting these up. I'll just go and get I don't think I've got a spanner just at hand that'll fit. Oh, one moment. Do you know you can never have enough spanners, can you? Look at that. Take that out as well. That's the main jet out, so you can now see straight through there. Sorry if I've done that off camera. Oop, don't kick the stand. Right, so that's the jet there. That's all nicely clear. And you can see straight through the bottom of there. Yeah, that looks all pretty damn good. I don't think I've got a spanner small enough for that. Just bear with me one moment while I come up to my bottomless tools. So please forgive me, I'm not brutally through a box of spanners to get one that's the right size, so you just have to criticise me for using one of those goddamn adjustable things. I've got one that I want to show you that I find quite amusing, an adjustable spanner, because they are bloody things. There's no crap in there, and there is a seal on there. I haven't got a set. Right, that is the pilot jet, which we'll check. It's a good sign that they're not all seized in, so somebody's probably been here checking them all prior to me doing it, but you can never check these things enough. Right, it's not crudded up, and I can actually see daylight through that, through the tiniest little hole in there. It goes right through, which a very tiny little jet that is. You can't just see what the number is on there. I keep moving away from the blooming camera. Yeah, so that looks all nice and clean. There's a number around the bottom there. Right, well that all looks in there, that looks all nicely clean, isn't it? It's not... Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I stay with my hands under the camera, because I'm looking at the camera at what I'm doing rather than looking at my hands. Right, so these are all coming out nicely. It's not all gummed up with crud and shite. Right. Well, you can see straight through that anyway, can't you, on camera? I am just going to hold it up to the light to make sure there's... Yeah, it's nice and clear. So I'm quite happy that they're all good. It's a good sign to start. Sometimes, you know, you take the first thing off and it's full of white crap or something of the sort. You're never quite sure what you're going to find, are you, with something for the first time. And when they've been standing, they soon deteriorate if they've got water in there rather than oily petrol, you know, like on a two-stroke. It tends to preserve. If it's a mix in the tank type two-stroke, it tends to hold back corrosion and stuff. Not always, but generally. Yeah, there's a see little washer on there, so it's amazing how much stuff leaks if they haven't got a joint on them. Yeah, it's all looking good. Just keep putting it back together till you got no more holes to fill, eh? That's not a bad theory. Just screw this in till the spring just bottoms slightly, and then it won't fall out again. It's worth noting that some of these carbs do get quite worn on the slide and in the bore of the carburetor itself. They were only made out of that mazel metal. It's not very high quality. It doesn't really need to be in a mass produced machine, but they haven't got a lot of wear resistance, so if the bike's done a lot of hard miles, the slide can become quite loose in the body of the carburetor. So I've had them where they make a very strange noise on tick over, and on two strokes it makes it sound even worse somehow. I don't know why, but yeah, you can hear them slapping about, and of course they don't run the best either when they're that worn. And there's not really a lot you can do. You can replace the slide, which perhaps give you a little bit more, give it a little bit less clearance in everything, but there's not a lot you can do. I've had quite a few over the years where the thread on the top of the carburetor has been badly cross-threaded, or I don't know whether they just come loose or something and jiggle about, but very often I've seen those threads worn to nothing. So when you try and tighten it up, when you get to that vital point where you're just going to nip it up, the threads just jump over, and you know, there's just not enough for it to bite. I remember on my first Greaves motorbike it was really bad, and I built built these threads up with araldite and screwed the nut on with grease on the inside of the nut, screwed it on as tight as a day and left it overnight. When I screwed it off, it had actually sort of made a bit of a bodgery type thread, but it would tighten up and nip and be airtight, and it made a lot of difference to that little Villiers engine. But you know, when times are hard, what's the old saying, necessity is the mother of all invention. So yeah, that's a very basic choke, isn't it? I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and I've done it on other bikes. I'm going to take all this gubbins off, because what I've done, when you see how crude the air filter system is and how restrictive it is, I've done this very cheap mod. The purists might not like it, but it's my bike, so I'll do what I like. But I think it's an improvement in my eyes. So if we take all this off, right, so that's the inlet, and this is the filter, where you've got these two, and then somebody's put some rubber in there. Well, normally it's just a wire gauze I've seen in there. That's not a bad thing, but what I bought a roll of air filter foam, modern stuff. It's quite open pored, free flowing. You can put a little spray of light oil on, but you don't want it too much, because that can be restrictive. But it's a lot better air filter than all these crammed on top of it, and then some wire mesh inside, and goodness knows what. I've seen wire wool stuffed in them and all sorts. So it wouldn't have suck any air in at all. So all I've done is I replaced that in there, so that the inlet doesn't suck the foam into the engine, because believe me, they can. And the filter element that I've got, which I haven't just got at hand, is a little thicker than that, and when it's in here and you put this cover back on, it just compresses it nicely, so it's not too restrictive, and it's not compacted up, so it works. Well, it works. So I'm quite happy with that. I can hear that float moving. It sounds like a metal float, which I would expect it to be at this age. And we'll just have a look. I just hope this blooming gasket doesn't split, because I haven't got any spares. I really ought to get some, to be honest. But the other Valiant that I'm involved with hasn't got the original carburetors on it. I do intend maybe putting the original carbs on if I can get them to work properly. Yeah, nice little brass float there, look. It's nice and a little bit of dust in there, but nothing of great consequence. Yeah, nothing special in there, is there? That's a very basic old system. Turn it upside down so that doesn't fall out. And there you are, that's it. The little tang on there is adjustable to get the float height right. It's still a float and not a sink. And that little baby's still there, yeah. Quite happy with that. It's my dear long lost brother said to me when he was teaching me all things motorcycle, he had one of these magic wands up his sleeve, Barry did, and he could look at an engine and just pass his hands over it with his magic wand in his hand, and it was always 10 miles an hour faster than anybody else's. He just had a magic touch with engines, to a point where it was astounding sometimes. He could time a Velocette 500 Velocette, time it up at the side of the road to within a fraction of accuracy, just from experience and knowledge and that magic touch. Now, when he was telling me about working on bikes, he says don't faff about with them too much. They're like a woman, if you treat them too nicely you'll have no bit of trouble with them. And I think he's right. I think you can be a little bit too precious with them. Be right with them when it needs to be right, but don't faff about with them too much. So it's always worked for me. Motorbikes I'm talking about, of course. So the bore of here looks quite good. I'm quite happy with that. I'm not going to put this back in just now, because I'm going to clean them all up. I've got an ultrasonic bath that I might fire up to give them a quick clean and a deburr. So that'll be another little exercise when I get round to doing it. So we'll whip these off while I've got it, because what I'll show you before the video's finished, I've done a little bit more work. Oh no, that's something else in the abyss, never to be seen again. And I've done a little bit more work on the Valiant engine and bike. I've got the wiring completed now, and I've got these wonderful things called sparks that come out the end of the spark plugs. I'm quite pleased. I've switched the ignition on, flicked the points, and ka-ching, I've got some sparks. So that's good, and the sparks seem to be coming. I haven't checked it accurately, but I've got no reason to doubt it. The sparks seem to be coming when they should, which is always a bonus. So if I can get these carbs cleaned and fettled, I shall stick them on the bike and rig a temporary fuel tank up, and we'll see if we can get some noise to come out of the old girl after all this time. No reason why we shouldn't. I was very pleased. I put the oil in the other night, filled the engine and gearbox with oil, and fitted the oil cooler. When I fitted the oil cooler, I then pumped it full of oil with my oil can until the oil came out the other end, the other pipe connection. And unusually, it's got a oil pressure gauge fitted to it, and after half a dozen kicks, and no more than half a dozen kicks, it was up to 30 psi on the pressure gauge just from kickstart. So I was very happy with that. And also, because I've only just put the rocker boxes on loosely just to keep any crap out of the engine, and also because I've mislaid the rocker box gaskets that I bought. I'll be blowed if I can find them. If anybody knows what I've done with them, please let me know. I was kicking it over, as I say, got the oil pressure, and I was pleased to see that there was oil leaking out of the rocker box where I just slipped it on just to keep the shit out. So at least I know the oil is being pumped around, and it's getting up to the head, at least on the left hand side. I haven't checked the right hand side because that had still got an old gasket and it's still sealing. Let's just see what this screw was set at as well. So that's half a turn out, so obviously that wasn't set very well, was it, somewhere? So that's only half a turn, that's down to its seat now. So just take it out, make sure the tit's on the end of it still. They're nice little things to work on, these are. They do have the challenges, but generally if they're being kept in good fettle, they're very easy to work on. That's nice in there. Yeah, so I'm pleased with everything I've found so far. John, who I bought the bike off, did say that everything seemed okay, but me being me, I don't know, I just like to check these things out. I'm just going to see if I can see her. Yeah, see a hole through there, which is quite important. They are little monkeys for blocking up, these are, because it's such a tiny little hole, and of course filtration and such like was never a strong point in the day, as people say. So yeah, it doesn't take much crap to mess them up, as far as that goes. Let's help if I did put it in the right place, wouldn't it? I have got some inline filters to put in the fuel lines, and I'm going to plumb the petrol taps in differently from factory, because it's got twin taps under the tank, and the left hand side one feeds the left tank, left carb, and the right hand one feeds the right carb, which is okay, but I just find that a bit odd. So what I've done on the other Valiant is I've linked the two outlets down to a common one, so I can use left or right as I want. Not for any particular reason, just as I prefer it like that. And strangely, you can get a little bit of residual fuel when it gets really, really low. You can get a little bit of residual fuel sat at the bottom of the tank, which you can slosh around and get to come through into the carbs. Right. It's so it's getting quite close to that exciting time to give the old girl a kick up and see how we go. It's as sad as it sounds, it still really excites me to first kick a bike up, especially if I've never seen it running before, and especially if you've done a lot of work. Ooh, sorry about that. If you've done a lot of work on the engine and it's been a big rebuild. Yeah, I can hear the float moving, so let's just have a quick look, see if we can drop another screw, never to be seen again. It's I would really like to keep the original carbs on this one, I really would, and I did on the other one, but I think there must be a small drilling in that one of those other carbs that's still blocked, even though I've had it in the ultrasonic bath and I've checked everything several times. It just will not run correctly, no matter what. I've even swapped carbs side to side just to see if it's anything I'm missing in the engine, but yeah, it's that one carb just will not have it. Right, that's all nice and free in there. Yeah, you find on these as well, if somebody's, I mean, we're perhaps all guilty of it, that when you press to flood the carburettor, tickle it as people say, or tittle it, or whatever you call it, when you press the button down, it's just that a spring-loaded pin comes down and pushes on the float to hold it down. Now let me just put that back in there so you can see. So the fuel level has come up and it's brought the float up to its correct. When you flood it, you press this little button in and it pushes that float down and opens that little valve to let more petrol in, so it then floods into the carburettor mouth, so the engine sucks neat petrol initially. Now what a lot of people do is go, and all you're doing is battering the poor old float up and down, and it's only made out of, oh, I don't know how thick, very thick brass. So doing that, you're just punching the hell out of that. All you need to do is hold it down.